indictments pending then, does that just keep pushing the trial date back? Because they'll say,
This
look, now
one
we've got
did
to
not.
process all this.
Yeah, this one did not, because there aren't any new crimes. So what they said was, you've already got all the discovery for this. The 3 people we talked about, you had that discovery since December 31st. And we've talked about this on this show a lot. When you get your discovery, they put 350 people in there that could be witnesses. And everything they've asked them and all this stuff. And the defense has got to go, holy crap, right? You got to prepare all of these. You're going to have to go to, you don't know who the 3 people are going to be. So you kind of got to go through that entire huge list of people that they sent you over in the discovery. It gets really kind of, this is a chess game, folks.
All right, if we've got almost 3,000 watching live, and if you've just joined us, we covered Diddy's knee injury or his old injury or his freak off, grazing his knee, creeping around the floor injury. We covered that earlier on.
4 hours in the hospital, folks. 4 hours in the hospital. He's not still there.
He's no longer in the hospital. This was several days ago, and it was reported late by the mainstream press, and he never went to court today. He's got his superseding indictment, and we're just discussing the multiplicity of his legal woes right now.
Yeah, and here's one that we got to do because it's just going to keep getting talked about. This is the time when Diddy's going to go out and switch with the body double so that the body double can go back in there and Diddy can leave. This is gaining so much traction. Number one, I got to make you a promise. Diddy didn't know what day he was leaving, so no one else knew what day he was leaving. They make that very difficult. But I got to ask you, I did this with someone else this morning. How much would I have to give you to do 1 year in a federal prison with paperwork that said you killed, right, 25 chomos? Best paperwork you could go into prison with, right? You'd be treated like freaking royalty. What would I have to give you for a year of your life with the best paperwork in the world? Most people ain't taking that deal. Most people wouldn't do it for $1 million. Most people wouldn't do it for $5 million. If they had been to prison before, they're not going back in with the best paperwork on earth. What do you got to pay a guy to go in with Diddy's paperwork? Because you're suggesting, right, that a body double is going to take over. You got to compensate that body double, right? What do you got to pay a guy to go live the rest of his life in hell on earth? People, that doesn't pass the smell test. I'm sorry, it doesn't, right?
Yeah, and we've possibly got Ori Spado coming on later this week, who was a former Hollywood mob boss, proper old school gentleman.
Like
and he's spent time in the MDC. I think he's met Diddy or he's met Jay-Z back in the day. So he's got some things to say, and he's got some people close to the case as well. So we hope to have Ori on. He's got a Diddy interview coming up. The person's going to be disguised, and we're going to interview him after that because he's got quite an exclusive. So we'll keep you posted on that one, folks. And like I said, Tommy's almost at 30,000 subscribers. There's his channel link in the live chat. If you're watching on replay, it is in the description box. And please get your questions in for Tommy, and we will anything Diddy, celebrity, Jay-Z, the Grammys, get your questions in. So Stander is asking, Tommy, why do you think these celebrities do such terrible things for attention?
I'm not sure that they do the terrible things for attention. I think they wear terrible things for attention. I think that that there's and just what you do for a living obviously makes people look at you, right? If you're an actress or you're an actor or you're a comedian or whatever, being famous, having people look at you and having people react to you is kind of what you do for a living. When you feel like you're getting out of that spotlight, they will do almost anything to get back in it. And Ye is a great example of this, right? Kanye West is a great example of this. Like there's no such thing as bad press. If you come out with anti-Semitic rants about, who's running the world, that might not be good. There is bad publicity, right? Ask Adidas. I mean, this guy cost himself a lot of money running off at his jibs. But I think that this is like any other drug. You understand? Attention does something in your brain. It releases a chemical. I do an opioid. It goes into my brain and releases a chemical. Right? If you do the Bolivian marching powder, it goes in your brain, it releases a chemical. For these people, that's the drug. right? The people acknowledging them, or the people talking about them, that is the substance. That's the drug for them. And it's like any other drug. Over time, you build up a resistance, right? You need a little bit more, and you need a little bit more, and you need a little bit more. Look at poor Madonna, right? I think she's the greatest example of this. Madonna's what? Is she 80? And she goes out, on stage and talks about being willing to perform oral sex on anyone who votes her way in the upcoming election. Woman, you're 80, right? Go home and act like a grandmother, for the love of God, But they get addicted to a lifestyle that she's going to do that until they're pushing her in a wheelchair, because that attention is something that they will dry up and die without, unless they go into, no joke, drug therapy. And you may laugh, but I'm dead serious, because that addiction is no different than any other. That's why we call it the lifeboat, right? We're all in the same boat. Oh, poor Bieber. Does that break your heart?
Before we go to Bieber, then, just to add a little bit onto what you said. So that statement, there's no such thing as bad publicity, I think that was originated before cancel culture, because cancel culture has proven that you can try something that you think is going to work in your favor, and you can lose absolutely everything overnight. I've seen people just crack a joke, say one little thing, and they've lost absolutely everything overnight. So there certainly is such a thing as bad publicity.
Oh, there is.
Kanye, like you said earlier, it's a kind of a Benny Hill thing, isn't it? For the man to be commanding and running around after the woman who's nearly naked, goes back to the 70s, goes back to the 80s. And yet he has got that reward of being the most talked about person overnight. And he's certainly, I didn't know what Bianca's name was until today, but legally this stuff could bite him in the ass at some point down the road. And then, Bieber, the question for you, Tommy, it's come from Rebecca's. Do you think Bieber will speak out about Diddy? I think he needs to get it off his chest, because the longer he's holding it in, the worse the toll it's taking on him. As we can see, he looks like Jesse from Breaking Bad on this picture.
This is horrible, and I agree with you probably more than anything in the world. And I will say this: I don't know what happened to him, right? I don't. I know that a lot of the things that we've seen that allegedly happened to him were not real. But we were just talking about trolls, and we were just talking about how there's no such thing, as bad publicity. Well, in this day and age, with this kind of access to information, there is definitely something that's bad press. Sadly, the trolls will destroy this man. And we live in a world, it would be nice if we didn't, but we still live in a world where the guy is supposed to be a little bit tough, right? A little bit macho. And if you were to have voluntarily, because what is alleged, right, is that they groomed him into it. They didn't necessarily hold him down, right? And the ignorant of the world are going to have a field day making memes about the kid. I think the reason he has this look on his face is probably because of all of the hate that is circulating. I mean, we deal with trolls. Somebody put something up and said, "Hey, what about this idiot who talked about you?" Trolls to us. Can you imagine what he's going through with trolls? I mean, I got people making videos about me. You got people making videos. But what do you think this dude, the number of trolls in these people's lives, I would imagine that often for somebody who becomes a star before they have, developed hair under their arms, probably gets to a realization at some point where they go, "Holy crap, if I could go back, I'd rather be a plumber." And I think that Diddy is one of those people that probably would have been a lot happier if maybe none of this had ever happened. And that's the vibe I get off the guy. I don't think he's going to come forward. I think it would be, sadly, as much as the world, like everybody here goes, "No, man, we'd rally behind him," right? We'd say, "This isn't your fault. You're a damn victim. You got nothing to be ashamed about," right? Yeah, well, that ain't it. Sorry, it's not. But I think we all know that the internet is way more hate than it is love. And I don't see him. I think it would end his career. I really do. I think it would end his career, and it might end his life. But I think he needs a lot of therapy, and I hope he's getting it. We don't know what happened, but I don't have a feeling it was good.
So, Bailey, fair enough what you're pointing out here. What if nothing has happened to him? We don't know, do we? I hope he gets attention. He is broken. So, Bailey, I would say that the eyes are the windows into the soul, and the body language, and having, I was incarcerated for 6 years. they were primarily traumatized people who were injecting the brown to self-medicate for the trauma of the childhood, you know, heinous things that happen to these kids. The essay, the R word, the getting thrown away on the streets, you know, living on the streets, no parents, seeing parents get unalive. All these stories I heard from these people, and they were that on their faces. And in my opinion, of having lived around people who were traumatized, it's almost